What's up, guys? So today I thought that I would go ahead and make a video about the stuff that to this day perplexes me, or if someone just asks me to explain or elaborate on something, I would not know what to tell them. And one of the things that I wonder about, this always tripped me as a child, but for some reason I never thought about asking a teacher about it, and that is, you guys ever read books? Of course, I'm sure you read books at some point, but there are specific books that when you open them up and you start a chapter, for some reason, they all start off with a fancy type of letter with a fancy font, and it tends to be bold and in capital letters, and usually italicized. Not always, but usually. What the fuck is that about? Is that to just give something like a neat appearance, a neat beginning? Because I never understood that. Is that for the sake of indentation, introduction, presentation, contrast? I never understood that. So if you guys have the answer to that one, before I recur to the never-ending world of Google, which I'm sure that answer is there, because I'm sure that I'm not the only one who observed that and doesn't know what that's about, and I'm not like a publisher or something. You guys let me know, because I also want to know just how much people actually know about the stuff that I wonder about, or if we're all pretty much on the same page as confused. And I see that JP is here. Good evening to you. Another thing that I wonder about while on the note of books is, why is it that on textbooks, and it doesn't even have to be limited to textbooks, it's textbooks and just regular old books, but especially textbooks, I'll never forget. There was always a page that you can flip to the very end of, or you can be ending a chapter and starting something new, particularly in math workbooks. I saw something that read, this page was intentionally left blank. Why? Is it because your book is so many pages long that in order to have a good crease for it or something, you had to have that extra page? And then you write that it was intentionally left blank? What's the intention behind leaving the page blank? So, what I would do is those pages, I would always tear them, and I would use them to write a shopping list or something, or notes, or a to do list, because I always felt silly that you have an extra page in a book, but you're just leaving it blank. It just sounds wasteful. So I wanted to find a purpose and a reason to use that. So you guys let me know if you know what I am talking about, and if you happen to know why that is the case. But if you guys don't happen to know, then I'ma be a little bit relieved, because it means I'm not as slow as I think I am. Not just playing. But it's just crazy because you never really stop to think about this and question this when you're a kid and you're in school. So now that I feel like I have another level of wokeness, I just want to question everything. Or I like to claim that I am woke, but I know, just whatever. And then this is going to be stepping into some weird territory, but let's talk about the human body. Specifically, what it feels like to be juiced up on roids. Like, of course, I go to the gym, I work out, and I can tell that there are some humans out there who are beast looking, and I am pretty sure that that was not achieved naturally. So, and there have been folks who are in my social circle who have admitted that they use roids. So, what does that feel like physically? What is it like for you to be able to last longer at the gym because you're juiced up on roids? And I don't know, let's say caffeine as well, and you have a quicker way to grow. Like your muscles are getting bigger in a way that I don't think they felt or knew that they could get that big. And another side effect of roids that I am so glad I do not have to worry about because I will never mess with them is the shrinking of private parts. So it's like you are having all these gains, but it's at the expense of something else in your body. So just is it really worth it for you to be getting jacked like that? Is it an appearance thing? Is it for you to achieve physical results that you otherwise wouldn't in a short period of time? Or unless you follow a strict exercise regime of some sort, you just don't feel like you can do it? Like, what's that about? What does that feel like? Because I cannot imagine being any bigger than I am right now. And I was actually trying to get bigger in general because I was just tired of feeling small and weak. But then I said to myself, you know what? I'm not competitive. I'm not an athlete to be competitive. So, what's the point of me being able to build up to a certain strength if I'm not going to do anything with it? So now I kind of regret that I was eating like a beast and gaining weight just for the sake of seeing how much I'm physically capable of. But now I'm trying to get a little leaner, a little smaller, but not necessarily lose all that extra power that I was able to obtain from eating a lot. So, but anyways, I'll always wonder what it's like for you to be all juiced up on roids. And this is going to be more on the social aspect of life. Another thing that I wonder, because this actually affects me, is why we become shy with those who we are close to. And what I mean by that is that I'm naturally a shy person. Like, I'm not someone who is necessarily the person who starts conversations unless I have a question, unless I need help with something, unless I need to reach out. But I'm never going to be the person who goes, hey, so and so, this is so and I want you to meet them. That's never going to be me. And sometimes when I am being introduced to someone, I'm like, please, I want to hide under a rock. Someone bury me so that no one sees me. That's how severely shy I am. But my shyness is not limited to just strangers or being in a setting around people who I do not know that well. It even happens with family members, with friends. So I just wonder what's that about? How does that happen? Why is it that people who we are supposed to be comfortable with, we still are able to experience shyness? And to me, being shy is just some kind of an insecurity. It's like, I don't want to be inopportune. I don't want to disrupt you. I don't want to bother you. I'm also just afraid to start a conversation with you because I don't know. I just am. I have that type of anxiety. So, how come with close people who are supposed to mitigate that stuff, why is that shyness still there? And I wonder if that's something that you'll ever 100% overcome. Because for me, I thought that by now I would be over that. But I realized that even with loved ones, I'm like, I got something to tell you, but I'm not going to tell you. Or I'm not going to tell you right now. Or I am struggling with something, but I'm going to keep it to myself. So I just wonder what that's about. And if you guys ever experienced that yourselves, or if that's just a very small percentage of the population. But I think it's interesting, so I thought I would mention that in the stuff that I wonder about. And then another crazy thing, this lands under the social studies category, is why is it that an unborn child does not have documentation? So, you guys remember that little stream that I had talking about abortion, and some of you understood where I was coming from. Some of you were absolutely opposed to the idea of it. So now I'm asking if you folks who are pro life acknowledge an unborn child as being absolutely full fledged, developed, existing, and everything, why do we not have documentation for that child, for that unborn child? For miscarriages? Is that something that, say, let's say that a political figure has a miscarriage? Are we going to have an obituary for that lost unborn child? So, why is that not a thing? I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm not trying to like start anything, but I genuinely wonder that if this is a human being that we are acknowledging as fully existing and functional, why would it not have documentation? And I guess it's fairly simple. It could be because, oh, well, if it's not born, we don't know what date the child is going to be born, so we cannot give it a birth date ahead of time, which to create documentation of any sort, you usually require a birthday. So, of course, if a child has only been conceived and is developing, it's not going to have documentation just yet. But I'm thinking at least acknowledge its sex and maybe the name of the parents. And can you figure out the blood type of a child when it's still gestating? I think you can. So, a little basic info like that. And then to finalize that document, you just wait for the exact birth date. So I just thought that I would throw that out there because that is something that's not really talked about. I have never heard anyone debating that or bringing that up. So I'm not saying that no one else has thought about it, but I'm just saying that on regular, common, day to day conversation when it comes to this matter, it has never been brought up. And then finally, the last thing that I could think of that I wonder about on the fly was how is it that we began to celebrate works of fiction? Like, I guess the Avengers Endgame movie coming out inspired this because, people were really losing it. Like, they were like, oh, yeah, I bought tickets ahead of time. I was making it to the theater at least half an hour early to make sure that I could get a good seat, and this matters a lot to me. These are my favorite superheroes. I grew up with them. They mean a lot to me. Yada yada yada. So how is it that we got to that point to where someone else's imagination being shared and lasting for so long? Because fictional stories tend to be built up. It's a whole process. So, how is it that we became so fascinated with it to where we celebrate it? We have turned it into businesses. We have turned it into, I guess, I don't want to say monuments, but definitely works of art. So, like, I cannot say that there's a statue of one of these in public places like that, like we have for politicians. But there's definitely art. There's definitely merchandise, which again it falls under the category of business. But when did this all start, and how and why, and how is it that it has lasted this long? Probably because of the ability that you have to capitalize off such a thing. But I just wonder on the human brain level, what is it that makes us keep going back to celebrate theatrical works, works of art, works of fiction, let it be written, recorded, filmed, sung about, whatever? So, yeah, you guys, that's pretty much it when it comes to this one. I had some random thoughts and I realized that they would be great conversation starters. So, before I go ahead and research this on my own, I thought that I would ask them here so that I can have the pre recorded, ignorant version of this up as opposed to the one that already knows the answers to the questions of stuff that I wonder about. But I also just wanted to see if you guys, given that we all come from like different times in our lives and different aspects of society, I just wonder where everyone is at when it comes to their thinking level, imaginative level, or wondering level, whatever it is that you wish to describe your thinking process. And yeah, you guys, I'll be sure to follow up with you on the answers to this question. Or if not, you guys feel free to bring it up in the future if there was one of these that you were interested in having a discussion on or me expanding on. And should I think of any more things that I wonder about, you can count on me doing a part two to this. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. I kept this stream pretty short and sweet, and I am so proud of myself because I usually just cannot. But, anyways, all right,